What's the name of our series?
Tuesday Tips.
Whoa! I always never know when it's live, and it always catches me off guard.
We are live.
All right. Hey, everyone. So, today's topic on Dale episode 2 on Tuesday nights.
Tuesday Tips with the Dales.
Tuesday tips with the Dales. Just the tips. Anyway, so today we thought we would do marriage advice from the divorcees, because we've both been divorced. So who better than to take marriage advice from? But hey, I look at it a different way. It's like, hey, we've already failed once, so now we've learned from our mistakes, huh? All right, so we each have our own tips, and it just seems like this topic has been insane lately. Or not topic, but I talked to my buddy from Michigan, and it's like, man, what is with all the divorce going on? It's like, do you even divorce, bro? It seems pretty rampant, and growing up, I never really noticed it to be that high. So we thought we'd come out with some good tips. This is a subject that I really, really did put a lot of time and hours of therapy and research into. So I think that my tips hopefully will be able to permeate if you need permeation. So without further ado, we'll get right in. But before we do that, I brought my laser.
Oh my gosh.
I lasered a guy at Sam's Club. He was the checkout guy. I did it in his belly. I'm like, wow! And he legit got like so upset. He's like, that's a crime to point that thing at me. I'm like, man, it's my laser though, man. I bring it to raves.
That's what I put up with.
Yeah, I did. I meant no ill will at all. But he just was not feeling the laser. Anyway.
All right.
I'll start us off. So my first tip, and there's a lot of good for our psychologists out there, a lot of good research on this one. And this was the first thing that I learned in reading books and therapy is invalidation. You can play the invalidation game next time you go out on a couple's date. Just watch. Watch how much this happens, and it's pretty crazy. And what invalidation is, there's two different forms. Invalidation, just like the name implies, is to say that a fact is false. So valid, fact, invalid, false. Okay? And it happens in two different ways. The first way is you can have, and I see that the guys do this a lot, although women I'm sure do it as well. But so I'll use a guy as an example. So say Eric and I are out, and she's like, oh yeah, do you remember that one Christmas back in 2016? And I'll just immediately swoop in front of everyone and be like, no, it was 2015. It was 2015, not 2016. Okay, so maybe factually she's wrong, but to swoop in and point out, hey, you're wrong in front of the group probably isn't the best thing to do. Now, psychologists found that fact invalidation is not as psychologically detrimental as invalidating her feelings. And that's what we see a lot. That's what I used to do. I probably still do. But awareness is the first thing in turning something around. Okay, and psychologically invalidating their feelings would be something along the lines of, hey, honey, so Eric comes out and says, oh, I just feel so fat in this dress. And then the guy thinking, hey, I need to turn that around, immediately swoops in and says, oh, it's stupid. No, you don't. You got to listen to what she said. She is saying that she felt a certain way, and you're automatically saying she has no right to that feeling. You think you're doing a good thing, like saying, hey, no, you look great, honey, you're wrong. But you're actually what her subconscious is hearing, and the subconscious drives the boat, is I don't have a right to feel this way. Or another way is say that Erica comes to me and she says, hey, I want to start, I want to grow a new leg on my business. And then I swoop in and say, well, is that going to make money, or what's the point, or whatever? Or I immediately invalidate what she is so proud. Maybe it's not about money. Maybe it's not about anything. A better thing to do in both those scenarios would be to start to say, well, let's talk about why you want to do that. That sounds exciting. Or let's talk about why you feel fat in that dress. You know, what makes you say that? And then maybe you can get into to a deeper conversation, but avoid swooping in and invalidating factual, but especially avoid invalidating each other's feelings.
Yeah, one thing I learned too is we talked about being in public is to, agree publicly, but to discuss it privately.
Right.
If you don't agree with what they're saying, that's your partner, that's your spouse. You have their back, even if they're wrong. And then when you go privately, you can have that discussion and you can say, I don't actually agree with that, and here's why.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. Number two?
Two.
Me? All right. So one of my tips for, a healthy marriage, a marriage that, you're going to be able to grow and last is to, I've said it before, is to always be dating each other. And I put this on Facebook not too long ago, and someone immediately responded and said, well, you don't have kids. And you're absolutely right. So maybe we get to date a little bit more frequently. But if you allow your children to be the reason why you don't date your spouse, you're really hurting them in the long run. Because if your marriage doesn't last, who's really going to suffer the most? It's those kids. So whether it's, getting a babysitter, or maybe you wait till you put them in bed and you do something romantic downstairs or whatever, you have to date your spouse. And I don't care if it's, a $5 ice cream at Dairy Queen, or if it's a $500, weekend getaway. It doesn't have to be about the money, but it's about the time. Absolutely, Angie, don't use your kids as an excuse, because again, those kids, we don't want your kids to hold your marriage together. I see that a lot. The couple probably wouldn't last if they didn't have kids, but really, who's going to suffer from that? So you've got to date each other.
Yeah, and my experience with kids is they're very perceptive. You can't fake it around kids.
Yeah,
I try all the time. They know.
For sure.
They know if you're faking it, and I would assume that they would especially know if mom and dad are faking it, because they're more intuitive with mom and dad.
Absolutely. And you guys find, if you don't have family that can help you out in that situation, maybe find another couple that has kids. Hey, we'll take your kids on Friday night if you take ours next Friday night, so that we can date and you can help each other through that. That's definitely an issue. I know a lot of couples that just, they don't date, or they don't know what to do. And again, it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. Just spend some time together.
Yeah, and I love surprise dates where it's we're not in the habit of going out on Wednesdays. But I love those surprise dates. My buddy Don, he'll always text me when some big EDM guy is in town, and he'll text me with 2 hours notice, and it'll always be on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Something like that. And, maybe 1 out of 10 times, or 9 out of 10 times, we'll swoop it up, man. And we were in Bloomington a couple weeks ago for the Borges concert, and it's completely on time, completely sporadic. But I think that keeps things fun and exciting.
Yeah, you got to have fun together, no matter what. Whether it's a baseball game, a concert, whatever you guys enjoy, just go have fun.
Yeah, just like when you started dating.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so number 3 for me is I got really into, after my divorce, how do I prevent this from happening again? So I checked out the love languages. There's 5 of them. I'm not going to get into them, but if you're dating right now, get that book. Because my thing is, the best thing is to be preventative. Find someone that you might share the love languages with. Now, if you're already in a deep relationship, but maybe you're struggling a little bit, understanding your partner's love language will really, really, really help. Erica doesn't care if I get home from work at 9 o'clock. And I don't care if she's got calls like last night till 11 o'clock, because quality time is our 4th or 5th love language. Well, if that was my number 1 love language and she's got calls till 11 o'clock at night, we're going to have some friction. But if I understand that her love language maybe isn't quality time, and she understands that mine is, then it will allow us to empathize with each other, and instead of having a big argument about it.
Yeah, and it's a little bit different. We learned growing up the golden rule: treat others as you want to be treated. And I love that rule. I agree with that rule. But when it comes to loving someone, you really need to learn how they want to be loved in order for it to work really well.
Right. I call it the platinum rule, is treat others the way they want to be treated. Cool.
I like it.
Yeah, number 4.
All right, so the last one is if you are under 18, run away. Get off of the live. You guys, intimacy, it's huge in marriage, right? They always say like that once you get married, you know, sex is off the table. And it shouldn't be that way. One of my mentors actually taught me, and it's crazy because we're in business together, but we learn a lot of life things from our mentors as well. And she taught me, you know, never say no to your spouse. And I was like, ooh, really? So if he wakes me up at 3 a.m., I'm not supposed to say no? He would never wake me up at 3 a.m., let's be honest. But you guys, don't say no to your spouse. You have to have that intimacy that's going to help hold your marriage together. I'm not saying, you know, if you're truly sick or there's really something wrong, but if you have to come up with an excuse or come up with a reason why you're going to deny your spouse of that intimacy, you really need to think that through. It's kind of like going to the gym or going to church. You know, no one wakes up and says, let's go to the gym, I'm so excited. Well, most people. But once you get there and you get into that workout, you feel amazing. And it's the same thing with intimacy. You know, you may not be in the mood at that moment, but at the end, you feel so close, you have that connection, and you've got to keep that going for your marriage to really, really be healthy.
Yeah, I agree. Especially like if your love language or your spouse's love language, if it is physical touch, then that's going to be pretty important. That physical touch, for lack of better terms, and if it's not your number 1, 2, or even 3 or 4, it's important to understand if that is important to them.
Yeah, that's a tough one when the love languages don't mesh. But
yeah,
man, if you can learn them and you can learn what theirs is, it's really, really huge. So I'll close this out, and I just want to leave with you guys, if you are in a marriage or a committed relationship and there's struggling times, it happens, and if it's not happening now, it will happen. But one thing that Jesse actually turned me on to was a book called The Love Dare, and it's based off of...
It's magic.
It is. It's based off of a movie called Fireproof. Super cheesy movie, but really good. And The Love Dare is not... I want to preface it. If you're going through a struggle in your marriage and it's hitting rock bottom and you don't know what to do, get The Love Dare, read it, do the dares. It's 30 days of dares that you do for your spouse. They don't know you're doing this.
Right.
This isn't something you do together.
Right.
It's not something like, well, he doesn't want to do it, so I'm not going to do it. No, do it anyway. And I promise you, if you fully give your heart 100%, if nothing else, you know that you put everything you can into that marriage. But I would venture to say that it will turn it around if you give it your all.
Yeah.
100%, no BS.
And counseling.
Absolutely.
Counseling is legit. They know the brain. They do.
Awesome. Well, that is all we have for Tuesday Tips with the Dales. So
just a tip.
Just a tip. We will tune in next Tuesday at 7 p.m. So hopefully you will join us.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, guys.